In 2000, Love and Basketball captured first love, raw ambition, and dreams that felt unbreakable. But 26 years later, time has rewritten every story. From mysterious illnesses and sudden loss to unexpected rises to A-list stardom, their real stories are more shocking than the film itself. Let's uncover what truly happened after the cameras stopped rolling. Sanaa Lathan as Monica Wright. Sanaa Lathan was born on September 19, 1971, in New York City, USA. At 29 years old, she played Monica Wright, a fiercely determined female basketball player fighting for respect, equality, and love in Love and Basketball. The role grounded the film emotionally, turning a sports romance into a serious examination of ambition, gender barriers, and personal sacrifice. That emotional control was shaped early. After her parents, director Stan Lathan and actress Eleanor McCoy, separated, Sanaa grew up navigating independence within an artistic but fragmented family structure. This discipline carried into her early career as she moved from television work into films like Blade and The Best Man, where she learned to hold her ground in ensemble casts dominated by strong personalities. As her profile rose, the industry's limitations became clearer. Despite acclaim, Sanaa repeatedly faced restricted opportunities for women of color, forcing her to stretch across genres and mediums. Performances in Brown Sugar and later Broadway work demonstrated her range, while behind the scenes, she quietly prepared for long-term creative control rather than short-lived stardom. Her personal life unfolded under constant observation. Sanaa dated her Love and Basketball co-star Omar Epps, but the relationship ended. She never married and has no children, a choice that fueled speculation but ultimately reinforced her focus on career stability and creative independence rather than conventional milestones. Today, Sanaa Lathan is 55 years old and remains active as an actress, director, and voice performer. With an estimated net worth of around $5 million, her story reflects control and longevity, built through deliberate choices, not compromise. Omar Epps as Quincy McCall. Omar Epps was born on July 20, 1973, in Brooklyn, New York, USA. At 27 years old, he played Quincy McCall, a gifted yet emotionally conflicted basketball prodigy chasing an NBA future, in Love and Basketball. His portrayal gave the film its volatility, embodying the tension between talent, ego, and emotional immaturity. That tension reflected his formative years. Raised by his mother, Bonnie Maria Epps, after his father left, Omar grew up in Brooklyn, learning self-reliance early. He channeled that pressure into creative outlets, leading to breakthrough roles in Juice and Higher Learning, where his intensity and vulnerability became defining traits rather than liabilities. As his career matured, Omar transitioned from film into television, where longevity demanded discipline. His role as Dr. Eric Foreman on House MD marked a turning point, transforming him from a raw leading man into a respected dramatic presence. The shift brought stability, but also the weight of sustained performance under public expectation. In his personal life, early instability gradually gave way to structure. After his relationship with Sanaa Lathan ended, Omar married singer Keisha Spivey in 2006. Together, they raised 2 children, while Omar also remained a devoted father to a daughter from a previous relationship, reshaping his identity around responsibility rather than ambition alone. Now, Omar Epps is 53 years old and continues working across acting, producing, and writing. With an estimated net worth of about $10 million, his life reflects consolidation, built through endurance, family commitment, and a career that learned how to last. Alfre Woodard as Camille Wright. Alfre Woodard was born on November 8, 1952, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, USA. At 48 years old, she played Camille Wright, Monica's traditional, emotionally conflicted mother, in Love and Basketball. Her performance added generational tension to the film, grounding the story in parental pressure, sacrifice, and unspoken disappointment that shaped Monica's choices. That restraint was forged early. Growing up in a working-class family in Oklahoma, with a father who worked as an interior designer and a mother who stayed at home, Alfre experienced racial discrimination that quietly narrowed expectations around her. Those pressures pushed her toward theater, where discipline and craft mattered more than visibility, and early stage work soon translated into screen roles that carried moral weight and authority, signaling a clear shift from survival to purpose. As her career expanded, so did her impact. Films like Cross Creek and later Passion Fish showed her ability to convey strength without spectacle, while television work brought both recognition and exhaustion. Even as awards accumulated, ageism and gender bias reduced the number of leading roles offered, forcing her to adapt rather than retreat. At home, stability came with responsibility. Alfre married writer Roderick Spencer in 1983, and together they raised two children, Mavis and Duncan. Their marriage endured decades of demanding schedules and time apart, requiring constant negotiation between professional ambition and family presence. Today, Alfre Woodard is 74 years old and remains an active performer, producer, and activist widely regarded as a Hollywood elder stateswoman. With an estimated net worth of around $8 million, her legacy rests on longevity, dignity, and the ability to remain relevant without surrendering principle. Dennis Haysbert as Zeke McCall. Dennis Haysbert was born on June 2, 1954 in San Mateo, California, USA. At 46 years old, he played Zeke McCall, Quincy's demanding, pragmatic father, in Love and Basketball. His portrayal embodied generational pressure, presenting ambition as discipline rather than affection, and deepening Quincy's internal conflict. That commanding presence grew out of crowded beginnings. Raised as one of 9 children in a large family, with a father working security and a mother managing the household, Dennis learned early how to be noticed. His height and race drew attention he didn't ask for, pushing him toward acting as a controlled outlet, first on television and later in films that rewarded authority and composure. Professional recognition came gradually. Roles in Major League and later 24 transformed him into a symbol of strength and credibility, but success also carried limits. He was frequently typecast as the authoritative figure, a pattern that brought steady work while quietly restricting range, even as audiences came to trust his presence instinctively. His personal life reflected similar transitions. Dennis married Elena Sims in 1980, a union that ended in divorce in 1984. He later married Lynn Griffith in 1989, with whom he had 2 children, Charles and Catherine, before their divorce in 2001. Each chapter marked a recalibration between career demands and family responsibilities. Now Dennis Haysbert is 72 years old and continues working across film, television, narration, and production. With an estimated net worth of about $20 million, his life reflects authority earned through persistence, built not on reinvention, but on consistency that audiences never stopped believing in. Debbie Morgan as Nona McCall. Debbie Morgan was born on September 20, 1956, in Dunn, North Carolina, USA. At 44 years old, she played Nona McCall, Quincy's emotionally steady but quietly burdened mother, in Love and Basketball. Her performance grounded the film, giving Quincy a sense of home even when everything else felt unstable. That calm strength did not come easily. Growing up amid frequent moves and a volatile household shaped by an abusive alcoholic father, Debbie learned early how to stay composed under pressure. Those experiences quietly surfaced in her early screen work, including emotionally restrained roles in Roots, The Next Generations, and appearances on Good Times, where she conveyed pain without spectacle. That emotional discipline carried her forward. Years later, television audiences embraced her as Angie Baxter Hubbard on All My Children, a role that made history and earned her a Daytime Emmy. When she stepped into film, Eve's Bayou revealed another layer, mystical, wounded, and deeply human, proving she could command the screen far beyond daytime television. Her private life moved through its own cycles. Debbie married Charles Weldon in 1980, then actor Charles S. Dutton in 1989, followed by photographer Don Thompson in 1997. Each marriage ended quietly, without children, and each ending pushed her inward rather than outward. Stability finally arrived with her marriage to Jeffrey Winston in 2009, marking a calmer chapter after decades of change. Today, Debbie Morgan is 70 years old and remains active in film and television. With an estimated net worth of about $12.5 million, her legacy is built on endurance, strength that never demanded attention, but always commanded respect. Harry Lennix as Nathan Wright. Harry Lennix was born on November 16, 1964, in Chicago, Illinois, USA. At 36 years old, he played Nathan Wright, Monica's disciplined and emotionally distant father, in Love and Basketball. His quiet authority sharpened the film's emotional tension, turning parental expectation into a silent antagonist. That restraint was shaped early. Raised in a large working-class family in Chicago, Lennix learned how to hold space without raising his voice. Those instincts surfaced in early film roles like The Five Heartbeats and Get on the Bus, where presence mattered more than dialogue and moral weight carried every scene. Audiences gradually began to associate him with authority. Baseball fans remembered Pedro Serrano in Major League, while television viewers later embraced him as David Palmer on 24. The roles brought recognition, but they also narrowed expectations, often casting him as strength rather than vulnerability. At home, life unfolded with equal complexity. Lennix married Elena Sims in 1980, then Lynn Griffith in 1989, with whom he had 2 children, Charles and Catherine. After those chapters closed, stability returned when he married business executive Jana Graves in 2009, a partnership that has endured alongside his long-running career. Today, Harry Lennix is 62 years old and continues working steadily across film, television, stage, and narration. With an estimated net worth of around $4 million, his career reflects quiet authority, never loud, never rushed, always present. Gabrielle Union as Shawnee. Gabrielle Union was born on October 29, 1972, in Omaha, Nebraska, USA. At 28 years old, she played Shawnee, Quincy's glamorous and confident girlfriend, in Love and Basketball. The role reflected the pull of status and image, quietly contrasting with the deeper emotional bond at the center of the story. That confidence was built on survival. Her parents' divorce and repeated exposure to violence forced Gabrielle to grow up alert and guarded, learning early how to read a room and protect herself. Around the same time, she was moving through television sitcoms and early film appearances, laying the groundwork for the visibility that soon followed. Recognition arrived fast. Bring It On turned her into a pop culture figure and earned her an NAACP Image Award, while films like Bad Boys 2 and Deliver Us from Eva confirmed her screen presence. Behind that momentum, she was also navigating industry abuse, later speaking openly about sexual harassment that left lasting psychological scars. Her personal life unfolded just as publicly. She married NFL player Chris Howard in 2001, a relationship she later described as rushed and emotionally draining, ending in divorce in 2006. Years later, love returned in a different form when she began dating NBA star Dwyane Wade, whose emotional openness reshaped her understanding of partnership. They married in 2014, and in 2018 welcomed their daughter Kavia James Union Wade via surrogate. Now, Gabrielle Union is 54 years old, balancing acting, authorship, and activism, with an estimated net worth of around $40 million, a career forged not just from fame, but from candor and resilience. Regina Hall as Lena Wright. Regina Hall was born on December 12, 1970, in Washington, D.C., USA. At 30 years old, she played Lena Wright, Monica's pragmatic and observant sister, in Love and Basketball. The role added emotional balance, grounding Monica's intensity with quiet realism. Her sense of perspective came from loss. While studying journalism at NYU, Regina's father died suddenly from a stroke, an event that abruptly shifted her life's direction. Acting followed soon after, with early work in The Best Man and supporting television roles that eased her into an industry she had never planned to enter. Comedy changed everything. Scary Movie introduced her fearless timing to mainstream audiences and earned her an MTV Movie Award, but she refused to stay boxed in. Dramatic turns in projects like Law-Abiding Citizen and later Support the Girls revealed a depth that critics could no longer overlook. Love, however, remained unresolved. Regina never married, a choice shaped by long-term caregiving for her mother after a diagnosis of scleroderma, a rare autoimmune disease. The responsibility reshaped her priorities, turning solitude into strength rather than absence. Now, Regina Hall is 56 years old, producing, acting, and shaping projects through her own company. With an estimated net worth of about $6 million, her career stands as proof that longevity can grow quietly, without spectacle, without compromise. Kyla Pratt as young Monica Wright. Kyla Pratt was born on September 16, 1986, in Los Angeles, California. At 14 years old, she played young Monica Wright, the fiercely driven childhood version of Monica, in Love and Basketball. Her performance gave the story its emotional roots, showing how ambition and love were already colliding long before adulthood. That intensity reflected a childhood spent working. Acting entered her life early, filling her schedule with auditions, sets, and expectations, while most kids were still figuring out who they were. Around the same time, she was appearing in television roles and films like Dr. Dolittle and Dr. Dolittle 2, learning professionalism at an age when rest was rare. As she grew, visibility only increased. Voicing Penny Proud in The Proud Family made her a generational presence, while One-on-One kept her face familiar on television. Success came quickly, but the shift from child star to adult performer brought pressure, forcing her to redefine herself in an industry that rarely waits. Her personal life offered a different kind of grounding. Kyla began a long-term relationship with Danny Kirkpatrick in 2008, choosing stability away from the spotlight's volatility. Motherhood followed, reshaping her priorities and giving her something solid to protect beyond her career. She welcomed 2 daughters, Lyric Kirkpatrick in 2010 and Laya Kirkpatrick in 2013. Today, Kyla Pratt is 40 years old, continuing to act and voice Penny Proud in The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. With an estimated net worth of about $3 million, her journey reflects growth earned through balance rather than speed. Glenndon Chapman as young Quincy McCall. Glenndon Chapman was born on May 17, 1986, in Los Angeles County, California. At 14 years old, he played young Quincy McCall, the gifted but conflicted young athlete, in Love and Basketball. His quiet performance captured the vulnerability beneath early talent, setting the tone for Quincy's future struggles. However, his screen presence suggests comfort with cameras at a young age. Acting arrived early, with appearances in films like Eraser and Baby Geniuses, placing him on sets where discipline mattered more than childhood routine. Unlike many of his peers, momentum did not turn into a long-term spotlight. Roles remained limited, and opportunities gradually thinned, making the transition from childhood recognition to adult stability uncertain. Instead of forcing continuity, he stepped away as the industry moved on. That distance from fame shaped a quieter adulthood. Without public relationships or headline-making choices, Glenndon's life unfolded largely outside entertainment narratives, free from scrutiny, but also from visibility. Today, Glenndon Chapman is 40 years old. With an estimated net worth of around $500,000, his story stands as a reminder that not every childhood role becomes a lifelong career, and that stepping back can be its own form of survival. Tyra Banks, as Kira Kessler. Tyra Banks was born on December 4, 1973, in Inglewood, California. At 27 years old, she played Kira Kessler, confident, stylish, and emotionally guarded, in Love and Basketball. Though brief, the role reflected the polished surface and quiet competitiveness that surrounded the film's central relationship. That poise was forged through insecurity. As a child, Tyra endured relentless teasing about her appearance, her body changing faster than her peers could understand. Her parents' divorce added emotional instability, forcing her to grow resilient early, learning how to armor herself while still standing out. That resilience turned into dominance. Modeling rejections gave way to historic firsts, and television soon followed, where America's Next Top Model transformed her into a cultural force. Behind the authority she projected on screen, Tyra was also confronting exploitation and emotional abuse, experiences she later addressed publicly, refusing to separate success from honesty. Love arrived with complexity. She dated photographer Eric Asla, and after years of infertility struggles, motherhood finally came through surrogacy. The experience reshaped her relationship with control, success, and vulnerability in ways fame never could. Their son, York Banks Asla, was born in 2016. By 2026, Tyra Banks is 53 years old, balancing business, media, and motherhood. With an estimated net worth of around $90 million, her legacy is defined not just by visibility, but by survival beneath it. Monica Calhoun as Carrie. Monica Calhoun was born on July 29, 1971, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. At 29 years old, she played Carrie, a loyal yet quietly conflicted partner, in Love and Basketball. Her role added emotional realism, showing the cost of loving someone whose ambitions never slow down. That emotional grounding came from scarcity. Raised in a low-income household, Monica learned early how to observe rather than demand, a quality that followed her into acting. Early work in projects like Baghdad Cafe and The Jacksons, An American Dream, trained her to communicate depth without excess. Recognition arrived through risk. The Players Club placed her in a raw, controversial role that redefined how audiences saw her, while The Best Man, and later The Best Man Holiday, cemented her reputation as the emotional anchor within ensemble casts. Each role leaned into restraint rather than spectacle. Off-screen, life carried heavier weight. Monica never married, and in 2000 she gave birth to a son who was blind from birth. Motherhood became a full-time responsibility layered over her career, reshaping priorities and limiting choices in ways few roles ever could. Today, Monica Calhoun is 55 years old, continuing to work selectively while caring for her son. With an estimated net worth of about $5 million, her story reflects endurance built quietly, through responsibility, sacrifice, and unwavering presence. Boris Kodjoe as Jason. Boris Kodjoe was born on March 8, 1973, in Vienna, Austria. At 27 years old, he played Jason, Monica's charming yet transitional partner, in Love and Basketball. The role hinted at a man caught between stability and ambition, briefly crossing a story that was already moving past him. His calm presence masked a restless beginning. His parents' divorce split his childhood early, followed by constant movement across countries and cultures. Sports became structure, and tennis offered focus, eventually carrying him to the United States on a college scholarship. That path ended abruptly. A serious back injury shattered his future in professional tennis, forcing him to let go of an identity he had built for years. Modeling arrived first, then acting, and soon soul food gave him visibility, followed by films like Brown Sugar that widened his reach. Love anchored him when momentum finally stabilized. He married actress Nicole Ari Parker in 2005, a partnership built on shared work and shared faith. Parenthood arrived with joy and fear when their daughter Sophia was born with spina bifida, permanently reshaping the family's priorities. They later welcomed a son, and by 2026, Boris Kodjoe is 53 years old, continuing to work steadily on television while advocating for disability awareness. With an estimated net worth of around $7 million, his life reflects adaptation rather than interruption. Shar Jackson as Felicia. Shar Jackson was born on August 31, 1976, in Boston, Massachusetts. At 24 years old, she played Felicia, outspoken, stylish, and confrontational, in Love and Basketball. Her role injected friction into the narrative, representing distraction, jealousy, and unresolved rivalry. Her sharpness came from complexity. Growing up in a multiracial household, Shar often faced questions about identity and belonging, learning early how visibility can invite judgment. Television offered an outlet, and Moesha made her a familiar face to a generation. Recognition came quickly, but peace did not follow. While she expanded her career with appearances in projects like Good Burger and The Parkers, public attention shifted toward her personal life. Fame became louder than her work. That shift turned painful in 2004. Engaged to Kevin Federline, Shar was pregnant when he left her for Britney Spears, a scandal that unfolded publicly and relentlessly. She later gave birth to their 2 children, navigating betrayal under a microscope while choosing composure over retaliation. She also has 2 additional children from a high school relationship and later became a grandmother. Today, Shar Jackson is 50 years old, 2026 minus 1976, living largely outside the spotlight. With an estimated net worth of around $500,000, her story remains one of endurance shaped more by resilience than recognition. They gave us love, rivalry, heartbreak, and dreams on the court back in 2000. But real life kept moving long after the final shot. Time reshaped their faces, tested their relationships, and led each of them down a very different path by 2026. Some found stability, others stepped away, and a few carried scars the audience never saw. So when you look at the Love and Basketball cast then and now, who surprised you the most, and whose journey hit you the hardest? If this story moved you, like the video, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more Hollywood nostalgia, real-life transformations, and the stories behind the films we grew up loving.